Hello, this is Kevin with Bangert Inc. And today we're going to be continuing on our introduction to e-takeoff dimension. This is the third video of 5. This section is going to be continuing on our takeoff and just some efficiency things to speed up the takeoff. So in the previous one, we just looked at a normal lineal footage and area and things of that nature. And this video is going to just kind of focus on things that can actually speed up takeoff. So when we looked at lineal footage, let's go ahead and hit length here. And let's say I've got some sort of wall type and I don't need this as standard. As I click, you'll notice that it just keeps following me along. If I go up to 2-point line, then the system would let me do start here, stop here, start here, stop wherever it needs to, and so forth. So that way, instead of necessarily always have to go up and hit the disconnect, sometimes this is kind of handy because it'll just go off and let me associate a beginning and an ending point of a line. If you notice, it kind of drags it over like it's going to continue on, but it does it since it's in the 2-line mode, so that way I can just start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, and it makes it a little bit faster than click, click, G, click, click, G, that type of thing. So that's one note to kind of take a look at. I'm going to just hit escape. The next one I want to kind of take a look at a little bit is when you are doing areas. Let's say I got floor type 1 or something like that. The 2-point rectangle will allow you to just do 2 points. 1, 2, 1, 2. And basically, as soon as you associate a top corner and a bottom corner or 2 points and things like that, that way you could draw the areas a heck of a lot faster than trying to go around and dot all 4 corners or things of that nature. So speed increase on that side of things. The next thing I want to kind of take a look at as we're going down through doing takeoff and so forth, and I'm just going to go ahead and wipe these out so that way I can just focus on each one at the moment. As we're going through doing like links, as I go across, I could go up and down and left and right and so forth. So trying to hone in on a particular point where maybe I've got to zoom in quite a bit or something of that nature. There is something called polar mode, which what polar mode pretty much does is it goes off, and if you notice, when I go up and down, it doesn't go up and down anymore until I get beyond like I don't remember what it is, like a 45 degree. And you can set how wide that is and so forth. So that way they're kind of assuming that with things being a straight line, I could just click a point, I could just click a point, I could just click a point. So it's basically faster than trying to deal with the X and Y axis at the same time, or all 4 axes at the same time. That way I only have to really deal with the 1 axis. If I go ahead and hold down like my control key, it would release it. So that way, if I do want something that's not at 45 degree angle and so forth, I can still come back and get something else in there. So the polar mode can be just real handy, especially for like extra perimeters and stuff like that, where I've got a lot of jogs. And once I hit a straight shot, I could just kind of head over to the far right or the side anyway, and keep on going. So that's a little bit about polar mode then. Let's go ahead and take a look at counting. So with count, there's a basic count in the function here, and I can tell it what it is. So if I want to say that I've got a type A window or something like that, and you can tell it what type of shape it is, what color it is, and go off and just do something basic like counting and so forth. Now, with counting in mind, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that at the moment. There's also a very, very powerful way to go through and have the system auto count. Now, in this plan, I could go off and do like multiple pages at the same time when I do this search also. I'm just going to kind of focus on one at the moment. I'm also going to go ahead and kind of back out here just a little bit so I can see the full print at the moment. So I'm going to go up to my drawing. I'm going to go to my search rectangle. And what this does is where I can kind of label what area I'm going to be looking through. And the main reason for this is I don't want it to search through all of this. If I search for a symbol, I don't want it to find it in the ledger or off on the side and things of that nature. So a lot of time it's just kind of handy to oops. And apparently I've got that really small, so let's go ahead and delete that and do it again. Okay, let's say okay. So let's say I want up there to, and that probably incorporates most of what I'm looking for. So that way I've just kind of associated what the search rectangle is. So before I start, I'd probably associate the search rectangle for the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, anywhere that I had windows or some object I wanted to search, and that way I could go through all plans at the same time. So I am going to go ahead and do one more here. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want the second floor too, and back out of it a little bit, and let's go ahead and get a focal point on it. And that looks good. Now, with these search areas, you could basically elect to show them or not show them. So if I go ahead and, oops, I don't need another one there. So that way I could kind of turn them off so that way they don't necessarily get in my way once I know where they're at and so forth. In my case, what I want to do is I want to take a look at windows. So windows on this plan have kind of a unique symbol. So they've got this 1 or 1Q or things like that, where they kind of have a octagon shape with some sort of a number symbol in them and things like that for the most part. So I'm going to go through and just find one here, and let's just say I'm going to zoom in on something here. I'm going to say that I'm going to start for searching for something. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a box around what I want to look for. Now, in this case, what I want to look for is more the octagon shape. So I am going to come back with my, let's say, eraser here, not that big, and see how big that one is. I'm actually going to just take this out, because what I want to do is when the system goes off and does a find, like a lot of systems I've seen out there, they'll search for a symbol, but if you find out that, oh, well, that's not really the symbol I want or things like that, I tell it that I don't want to count it, and then I come back and do a search later for another symbol type and so forth. So what this is going to allow me to do is this is going to allow me to look for this basic shape once and maybe use that many times and so forth. So I'm just going to come back and kind of haphazardly put, I got a little carried away on my taking out here. And that's going to be close enough for what I'm looking for. Sometimes if this was something that was more directional, I might say, hey, search all 4 rotations. This is where I can also come up here at the top and specify what am I looking for. So I might go in and say my first thing is going to be window A. It's doing a count. Red dots are fine for what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm going to just say, okay. This is where I could tell it what the entire drawing or certain ones. So if I was on the second floor, I'd see the second floor. But if I go through there and said like search entire drawing, I could go through all my different search areas. I'm just going to go and pick the one for now. So that's going to go through and try to find all the different octagon type of shapes for me. Down here, I could tell where it's at. Now I'm sitting here waiting on it. I could be doing takeoff. So if this takes a little bit to search, I could be going back and do another takeoff while it's going through. You could do multiple searches at the same time, and it'll just process it in behind the scenes in the background and so forth. Once it gets done, it'll show me at binoculars. It'll kind of show me what it found. So here's all the different variations of what it found. So in this case here, the only thing that I see that is really looks like a 1A is what? So in my case, sometimes I find that if I click once on the first one, hold my shift key down and click it once on the last one, I could turn them off and then come back and just tag the ones I want, or I could come back and tag some of them. So in my case, the only ones that look like they're really the 1As are maybe those things there. Now, as I'm looking at this, if I don't really know, well, I kind of like to see the context of where this is from or that type of thing from the set of prints. I can't say review on drawing. And if I back off, this is going to show me where it's went ahead and found those. It's also going to show me the ones that it didn't count. So as I'm looking at this, if I decide, well, wait a second, that's really the same window, I might go ahead and click on it, and that way it'll change it back to a green that I want to count for it and so forth. So that'll just kind of let me go through there and And there again, kind of give it the visual before it throws it in as a count type of thing. And there again, if I got a green one, I could check on it and turn it off, all that type of stuff. When I'm done, I could tell it I'm done with the review mode. And in this case, I'm going to say save and continue. So what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and save the one that I've got, and it's going to go ahead and keep what I've got up here so I could do more takeoff. So now I'm going to go back up here to edit. I'm going to go back to Windows, and let's say I also have some window type 1s. And let's say instead of red, I'm going to make those, let's say green. And the ones that look like a 1 might look like that there. So one of the benefits here is I didn't have to go back and wait for a search again. I'm kind of using things that are the same similar search multiple times. So now there again, I'm going to save and continue. Now I'm going to come back up here and say, okay, well, what have I got left? Looks like I've got some window 2s in here. And maybe I want those to be a different color. So let's get those different. And the ones that look like a 2 maybe looks like that. And one last time for window type 3s. And now I've basically done. So I could tell, like, I've got the 1A windows, the 1 Windows, 2 Windows, 3 Windows, and they're all counted and color coded and things of that nature. So very, very powerful search, especially when you sit there and say that I could have done that for the whole darn plan at the same time. Just very handy when you're sitting there looking at things like doors and windows and fire alarms and audio equipment, some of those type of things where they use a somewhat a consistent symbol. Very powerful for that thing. The other thing I wanted to take a quick look at for when we start talking about speeding up takeoff is it's also very typical when people are taking off like floors or a wall. I'm going to go look for another set of prints to go find my wall schedule or door schedule or things of that nature. So another thing that I wanted to kind of throw into this for there again for efficiency and so forth is if I go up to view, there's this thing called extra drawing window. Now you can have as many extra drawing windows as you want. And there again, for those with multiple monitors, this can be something that I'm probably going to keep on another monitor or something of that nature. And it's got the benefit that I could be sitting there looking at, maybe I'm going to look at a finish schedule or something of that nature. So I could be sitting here looking at some other page at the same time as I'm doing takeoff. So a lot of time when people are working with like PDF files, I'll go do some takeoff and then I'll flip somewhere else to go figure out, well, what's the size of that wall or which flooring type is this room and so forth, and then jump back and do some more takeoff. So that's very handy to be able to have the same thing on some other screen. And there again, you can sit there and open up multiple windows as I need. So that way, in this case here, I've really got 3 different windows going on. So I can have my floor schedule on one and my wall schedule on another, and where I'm doing takeoff on my main screen and so forth, all that right in front of my face as I'm doing takeoff. And then I can also add notations from any of them and so forth also if I want to put myself some reminders or put a note off to, maybe I've got a question for an architect that I can put a note on and take a picture and send it to him or something like that. That concludes this session. Thanks for watching, and make sure to join us for the next one where we start talking about using AI technology. Thanks for watching.